The air in the house was thick with tension as I sat across from my father, his expression unreadable, yet his expectations clear. The dining table between us felt like a battlefield, one where love, duty, and financial responsibility clashed violently. He sighed, rubbing his temples before finally speaking. "Son, your sister's wedding is in 6 months. We need your help." I nodded, expecting something reasonable. "Of course, Dad. What do you need?" He inhaled deeply, as if preparing to drop a bomb. $300,000. The number hit me like a freight train. My stomach churned, and I blinked, convinced I had misheard. 300 what? His face remained calm, as though asking for a life-changing amount of money was as normal as requesting a cup of tea. "Your sister deserves the best. A grand wedding, designer dresses, a 5-star venue. She's always dreamed of this. And as the eldest, it's your responsibility to help the family." I swallowed hard. Responsibility? I had worked tirelessly, built my own life, paid off my loans, and saved every penny. But $300,000? That wasn't help, that was a financial ambush. I glanced at my mother, expecting her to intervene. Instead, she gave me a sympathetic but firm nod. They had already decided. They expected me to say yes. I took a deep breath, my mind racing. Was I truly obligated to finance my sister's extravagant fantasy? Or was I about to set a dangerous precedent that could wreck my future? I clenched my fists under the table, forcing myself to stay calm. $300,000? I repeated, my voice betraying a mix of disbelief and frustration. My father, Hassan Malik, was a man of tradition. He believed in family honor, in grand displays of wealth, and above all, in his role as the head of the household. Respect for elders was non-negotiable, and so was financial sacrifice for the family's reputation. Across from me sat my mother, Aisha Malik, a quiet but ever-loyal wife. She rarely spoke against my father's decisions, choosing instead to smooth things over, keeping the family intact even when cracks threatened to split us apart. And then there was my sister, Anaya, the golden child. The one who had always been doted on, protected, given the best of everything while I was taught the value of hard work. The princess of the Malik family. I wasn't surprised that she wanted an extravagant wedding. She had never known limits. Never heard the word no. "Anaya deserves a wedding that matches our status," my father continued, tapping his fingers on the table as if this were some business deal I had no right to refuse. I took a slow breath. "Dad, I understand you want the best for her, but $300,000 is a ridiculous amount of money." He frowned, displeased. "It's not ridiculous, it's necessary. Do you want people talking about how we couldn't afford a proper wedding for our only daughter? What will our relatives think? What will the community say?" There it was. The hidden motive. This wasn't just about Anaya's happiness. It was about status. About appearances. About outshining every wedding in the extended family. I turned to my mother. "Ammi, do you really think this is a good idea?" She hesitated, eyes filled with quiet concern. "Beta, we've always done what's best for the family. Your father just wants to see Anaya happy." Happy. That word churned in my mind. Would her happiness come at the cost of my financial ruin? Anaya finally spoke, flipping her perfectly styled hair over her shoulder. "Bye, I thought you'd be excited to help me. It's not like you can't afford it." I narrowed my eyes. That's not the point. But Anaya had always known how to get her way. She sighed dramatically. "I just don't understand why you're making this a big deal. You earn well, you don't have kids, you don't have a wife, you have no real expenses. What's the harm?" I stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. No real expenses? She had no idea what it had taken for me to reach this point. The sleepless nights, the sacrifices, the years of struggle. "Anaya, my money is not just sitting there waiting to be spent on a wedding," I said, my patience thinning. "I worked for every dollar, and I have my own future to think about." "But we're family," she said, pouting slightly. "You always said you'd do anything for me." I exhaled sharply. They weren't asking for help. They were demanding a financial sacrifice for a status symbol. And if I refused, would I be labeled the selfish son? The ungrateful brother? The disgrace to the Malik name? I realized, with a sinking feeling, that no matter what I said next, this conversation was about to change everything. The tension in the room was suffocating. I felt like I was being pushed into a corner, expected to surrender without a fight. I leaned forward, locking eyes with my father. "I'm sorry, but I can't give you $300,000. Silence. For the first time in my life, I saw my father's jaw tighten in a way that sent a cold chill down my spine. His authority had never been questioned before. "Excuse me?" His voice was low, controlled, but there was an unmistakable edge to it. I cleared my throat. "I can't afford to give away that kind of money just to impress people. If you need a reasonable amount, I can help. But this—" I shook my head. "This is not reasonable." My mother exhaled, looking down at her hands, while Anaya's eyes darkened. "So you're saying no?" she asked, voice sharp. I hated the way she said it. As if my refusal wasn't just about money, but about loyalty, about love. "Yes, Anaya. I'm saying no." And then came the words that flipped my entire world upside down. My father's voice was steel. "Then don't expect a single rupee from me when you need it." I froze. "What?" My father continued, his expression unreadable. "If you can't support this family when we need you, don't come to us when you need something in return." The weight of his words hit me like a truck. This wasn't just about the wedding anymore. This was a warning, a threat, a declaration of war. I could feel Anaya's satisfaction radiating from across the table. She knew. She had always known that our parents would choose her. I clenched my fists, my heart pounding. "You're saying that if I don't give you $300,000, you'll cut me off?" "We're saying that if you refuse to stand by this family, we have no obligation to stand by you." The betrayal stung deep, but the worst part? I wasn't even surprised. I exhaled sharply, my mind racing. If I refused, I'd lose my family's support forever. If I agreed, I'd be sacrificing my own future. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, Anaya smirked. "It's okay, Dad. We don't need his money. I have another way to fund the wedding." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" She picked up her phone, tapping the screen with an almost amused expression. Then she turned it around, showing me something that made my blood run cold. My bank statements. My investments. My entire financial portfolio. She had access to everything. I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. "How did you get that?" Anaya smiled sweetly. "Dad gave me access years ago. Just in case." I turned to my father, my chest tightening. "You let her into my finances?" He didn't even flinch. Family trusts each other. And in that moment, I realized the horrifying truth. They had never been asking. They had always intended to take it, whether I agreed or not. My breath caught in my throat. They had access to my finances this entire time. The betrayal sank in like a knife. My father, the man I had looked up to, had given my sister control over my money, without my knowledge. I felt a cold sweat creeping down my spine. "That's my money," I said, my voice dangerously low. "You had no right." Anaya tilted her head, playing innocent. "Oh, relax, bye. I haven't touched anything, yet." Yet. The word hit me harder than any insult ever could. This wasn't just manipulation. This was control. I turned to my father, expecting at least some remorse. Instead, his gaze was firm. "We are your family, and family shares everything. You wouldn't be where you are without us." I let out a sharp laugh, my patience evaporating. "Are you serious? I worked for every dollar in that account. I studied, I built my career. No one handed it to me." My mother finally spoke, her voice soft, almost pleading. "Beta, don't make this about money. We've done everything for you. We raised you, put food on your plate, paid for your education. Is it too much to ask for some support in return?" There it was, the guilt card. I exhaled sharply, shaking my head. "You paid for my education because that's what parents do. And I've repaid you 100 times over by taking care of this family whenever you needed me." But none of them cared about logic. They only cared about what I could give them. Anaya folded her arms, unimpressed. "Bye, you're making this way too dramatic. It's just money. You'll earn more." I could feel the rage bubbling inside me. "Easy for you to say when it's not your money being taken." She rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. You don't even have a wife or kids. Who else are you saving for? I clenched my fists so tightly my nails dug into my palms. That was it. That was how they saw me, a walking bank account with no life of my own. But then, something far more chilling hit me. If they already had access to my finances, what had they done with it? A sinking feeling settled in my stomach. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone, opening my banking app. And when I saw the numbers, my world shattered. $150,000 missing. I shot up from my chair. Where's my money? Anaya barely flinched, her expression unreadable. Relax, bye. We just moved some of it. It's going to be put to good use. I turned to my father, my voice shaking. You stole from me? He remained calm, as if I was the one overreacting. It's not stealing. It's for the family. For Anaya's wedding. You were never going to say yes, so we made the decision for you. My hands trembled with rage. They didn't just betray me. They had robbed me blind. Anaya sighed dramatically. Honestly, you're acting so selfish. It's not like we took all of it. You're still rich. I saw red. They had crossed a line that could never be undone. I clenched my jaw, my mind racing. This wasn't just about a wedding anymore. This was about control. About manipulation. About power. And I knew, in that moment, I had to fight back. My hands were shaking as I gripped my phone, staring at the $150,000 missing from my account. The rage inside me was boiling over, but the betrayal hurt even more. I turned to my father, my voice deadly calm. You had no right. He exhaled, rubbing his temples like I was the one being unreasonable. Beta, you're overreacting. We didn't take it, we allocated it. It's for the family. Allocated? My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. You stole from me. Don't try to sugarcoat it. Anaya scoffed. Bye, seriously? You're acting like we robbed you blind. It's just money. You'll make it back in no time. Just money? I had spent years building that savings. Countless sleepless nights, sacrifices, every penny carefully saved. And they had taken it like it meant nothing. I looked at my mother, hoping, praying that she would take my side, that she would see how wrong this was. But she wouldn't even meet my eyes. My chest tightened. She knew. She had always known. And she let it happen. I swallowed hard. You all planned this. My father didn't deny it. It's for the family, Beta. You wouldn't understand now, but one day you will. Something inside me snapped. I laughed. A hollow, bitter laugh. You think this is about family? This is about control. You've always seen me as your backup plan. Your insurance policy. Anaya rolled her eyes. Oh, stop being dramatic. You'll be fine. I turned to her, my voice sharp as a blade. You're the reason they did this. You were always the favorite. Always given everything you wanted. And now, you've taken from me too. She smirked. And what are you going to do about it? Bye. Her arrogance made my blood boil. She thought I wouldn't fight back. She thought I would just accept this. I took a deep breath. Fine. My voice was steady now. Cold. Calculated. They had made a move. Now it was my turn. I pulled up my banking app and scrolled to another account. My business account. The one they didn't have access to. And then I transferred every remaining penny to a new, secure account. Anaya's smirk faltered as she watched me tap away at my phone. What are you doing? I didn't answer. I moved fast, password changes, security locks, everything. I cut them off. Finally, I looked up. If you're going to betray me, I'll make sure you never touch another cent of my money again. Panic flickered across Anaya's face. Bye. I turned to my father. You wanted to play dirty? Let's play. His expression hardened. Don't be stupid. You'll regret this. I let out a breath. No, Dad. You will. For the first time, I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before: uncertainty. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. Enjoy the wedding. Because after this, I'm done with all of you. And with that, I walked away, knowing this was the moment I finally broke free. But deep inside, a part of me wondered. Had I lost my family forever? I walked out of that house with my heart pounding, my mind racing with emotions I couldn't even begin to process. Anger, hurt, betrayal, but most of all, freedom. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just my father's son or my sister's provider. I was my own person. But the weight of what I had done lingered. I had just cut off my own family. Could I live with that? Days passed. No calls. No messages. Not from my father, not from my mother, and certainly not from Anaya. I expected to feel guilt, maybe even regret. But instead, a strange sense of relief settled over me. I wasn't waiting for the next demand. I wasn't constantly proving my worth to a family that never truly valued me. I was free to build my life without being their safety net. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my mother. Beta, the wedding is next week. Your father says you are welcome if you want to come. No apology. No acknowledgement of what they had done. Just an invitation, like nothing had happened. I stared at the message, my hands tightening around my phone. Did they really think I would just show up and pretend everything was fine? For a long time, I didn't respond. Instead, I thought about what I truly wanted. A part of me missed my family, the memories, the love that once existed. But I had also learned the harshest lesson of all. Sometimes, family isn't about blood. It's about respect, about trust, about knowing that the people in your life will stand by you, not use you. And in that moment, I made a decision. I typed my response carefully. I wish Anaya the best, but I will not be attending. And then I hit send. No more explanations. No more guilt. I wasn't their bank account anymore. I wasn't their backup plan. I was finally free. Walking away from family isn't easy, but sometimes it's necessary. Respect, love, and loyalty should go both ways. If you find yourself constantly giving while others only take, ask yourself, is this love or is this control? I learned the hard way that family isn't just about blood, it's about trust. It's about people who support you, not the ones who manipulate you for their own gain. Sacrificing for loved ones is a beautiful thing, but only when it's a choice, not an obligation. If you've ever been in a situation where you were pressured, manipulated, or used by those closest to you, remember this: you are not selfish for protecting your future. You are not wrong for setting boundaries. And you are not heartless for walking away from people who don't respect you. Ask yourself, are the people in your life uplifting you or just taking from you? Let this be a lesson. Stand up for yourself, even when it's hard. And never let guilt keep you in a place where you are not valued. If you've ever faced something similar, drop a comment below. Let's talk about it. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life lessons. Because at the end of the day, your peace is priceless.